It is the Security Weekly News, episode 244. I'm Doug White, and welcome to the week of 2 October 2022. We've got Bruce Willis, Deepfake and Deepcake, Comm100, Cyber Month, Chromium, ProxyNotShell, or ProxyNotShell, fake ProxyNotShell, Cobalt Strike, and Jason Wood on the Security Weekly News. Stick around.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News.
Managing and protecting the world's grueling number of endpoints, enabling Tanium's customers to see, control, and protect every endpoint everywhere. Tanium's mission is to provide certainty in uncertain times with the industry's only converged endpoint management. Trusted by the U.S. military and the majority of the Fortune 100 today, Tanium helps manage and protect nearly 30 million endpoints. Tanium, the power of certainty. Visit securityweekly.com/Tanium to learn more. Right now, everybody is talking about cryptocurrency, and the cyber criminals are hiding in the conversation. Cyber criminals use social engineering loaded with urgency and fear to successfully prey on your company, your employees, and your customers. Spear phishing is just one of the 13 types of email threats. Barracuda has identified 13 types and shows you how you can protect your company, your customers, and your reputation. Find out about the 13 email threat types and Barracuda email protection by going and getting your free ebook at securityweekly.com/Barracuda. That's securityweekly.com/Barracuda. All right, welcome back. And back in 2004, that's a long time ago, but it doesn't seem that long ago, but the Department of Homeland Security and the National Cybersecurity Alliance in the United States started promoting something called Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And I really I remember when they did that. And as such, we've got events, speeches, you know the drill. Just like when they have Dog Month or Cat Month or People with Asymmetric Lips Month or all those other months that they have so they can sell greeting cards or whatever the purpose of all these things is. But, you know, it gives us all time to come together and talk about cybersecurity and then get back to ignoring it for the other 11 months. Because I'm sure November is something else like Bad Hair Month or, it's the Don't Shave November or whatever that stuff is. But at the end of the day, we do have cybersecurity. U.S. President Joe Biden said on Monday in an annual proclamation, and notice annual proclamation, yep, once a year. So, quote, during Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we highlight the importance of safeguarding our nation's critical infrastructure from malicious cyber activity and protecting citizens and businesses from ransomware and other attacks. We also raise awareness about the simple steps Americans can take to secure their sensitive data and stay safe online. Well, I guess anything helps, you know. But, you know, sending out a pamphlet once a year probably is not going to be enough. But, you know, hey, it's Cybersecurity Month. Don't forget to wear the special hat and all, you know, like, so happy Cybersecurity Month. I'm a little cynical about it if you didn't notice, but I just, you know, it's just a little frustrating. But I understand everybody else has to have their month too. Well, the other day I was installing Windows 10, in fact, on a VM, and I did what I always do when I install these things is I sat down and I said, okay, Edge, I need to install Chrome. And I noticed that Edge was begging me to use Edge instead of Chrome. Like, it was almost pathetic. You know, it was like, please don't do this. And it basically literally put up a message that said, you know, before you install Chrome, we use the same engine as Chrome, right? You're aware of that. And I was just like, yeah, thank you. Go ahead and install Chrome. But it did have a little desperate feel to me, you know, like, what is my purpose? Like to put butter on that, but, you know, that kind of thing. But anyway, so now they're all in the same boat together, but a new phishing technique can be conducted using Chrome's application mode. So Chromium-based browsers are subject to this, which the biggies are, of course, Chrome, Edge, and Brave. And basically, this application mode feature is available everywhere there. And so the exploit will allow you to generate essentially realistic-looking screens that pop up in the same way that they pop up YouTube or any other type of app that can run on your system that's not going to show it as being inside of Chrome. So if you click on certain links on YouTube or whatever, you can pop those up. And it also means they can create realistic-looking login screens that may or may not have any kind of URL bars or other menu bars like you would see in Chrome. And it can be a rendering, of course, as well. So they can just pop that rendering up, and that would allow, what they call a browser-in-a-browser attack. And Mr. Docs, who was the original source of browser-in-browser attack documentation, introduced this new set of attack and put all that together. So app mode will allow the browser to launch other websites in a separate window, and it can also just launch apps in another window that pops up. And so that means you can create fake forms. You can get people to type their credentials into that. The example I saw was using a Microsoft login. So you can actually use that as a way to scrape credentials right off the desktop. It does appear this newest one does require that the attacker has to convince you to actually run a shortcut, which launches this whole thing. But that's been shown to not be that difficult to do. It's apparently a new approach to what they used to use on these scripting attacks, where they send you a Word file or a PDF and you click on it and then it runs a script, because that's been blocked everywhere. Microsoft blocked that in Office recently. The whole approach, if you're interested in this, is documented in an article with a lot of grim detail. So Kevin Beaumont named this vulnerability ProxyNotShell when he found it, and due to the similarities it was very similar to what was called ProxyShell last year. And this new vulnerability can be triggered by an email login. So all you really need is standard email credentials to actually trigger this vulnerability. GTSC, who's a Vietnamese-based security research organization, had reported these flaws to Microsoft in the first place back in August, I think, and they had seen them being exploited back then. Microsoft claimed that a state-sponsored threat group had chained those vulnerabilities together, but that they had only targeted 10 or fewer organizations around the world. Still bad. But anyway, as a result, because Microsoft did not have security patches for this, they proposed a mitigation that they worked on with GTSC and Microsoft that supposedly would get us all by until such security patches could be released. A researcher known as Jang or Yang, I don't know the pronunciation of it, but Jang, claims that the mitigation proposed, which is changing a URL rewrite rule, is very easily bypassed, and there's details about that in that article. CERT Coordination Center at Carnegie Mellon released an advisory which explained the mitigation problem as well. So the conclusion is that the mitigation probably doesn't help much. So if you've got these vulnerabilities in Exchange and Microsoft hasn't patched them yet, you may have issues with this if people can get to that server, which is kind of the point. So definitely take a look at that if you're running Exchange server. In the same light, scam artists immediately jumped on board, and they are pretending to be security researchers and selling fake proof of concept ProxyNotShell exploits. So they're like, okay, we don't have an exploit for this, but we can just sell you a fake one. I don't know if the people buying these exploits are being scammed are actually hacker-type people, or if they're like security specialists, or maybe they're trying to get Microsoft to jump on. But supposedly these exploits are advertised as working with these new Exchange 0 days. GTSC had initially reported all these attacks, and Microsoft confirmed this 0 day back in August. Microsoft said now they are expediting security updates to fix this hole, but in the meantime, someone's creating GitHub repositories which offer to sell fake proof-of-concept exploits for the two vulnerabilities. Huntress Labs said that accounts JML4DA, Tim Walbay, Leo Zhao King, and Rue Sevener, and Spherox were among the accounts that were selling this access, and Paolo Pacheco found an account which was actually impersonating Kevin Beaumont, who originally, found this exploit, and the account was pretending to be Kevin Beaumont. All these GitHubs have README files in them that basically has a link to a Satoshi disk page where you can purchase the fake exploit for either $420 or $630, depending on which one you're looking at. Now, considering that Zerodium apparently is offering around $250,000 for Exchange remote code execution 0 days, it seems a little suspicious right up front, but maybe you don't know that somebody's offering to pay that much. Scammers scamming scammers. I mean, imagine that. But again, they may be trying to sell these things to legitimate security research firms as well. A new phishing campaign is targeting U.S. and New Zealand job seekers with a document which installs Cobalt Strike on the victim's device. Cisco Talos reported on this matter and said that the two different phishing lures were being used, but both of them were targeting job seekers. And basically, we've seen this before, and it's been a common thing that's out there. But basically, they send a malicious email which claims that it has a very lucrative job offer in the United States federal government. Is there any? I was like, what? A lucrative job in the federal government? I mean, I was like, I don't think it actually works that way, folks. But regardless of that, that's what they're promising, is a lucrative job offer in the U.S. federal government. And the email is supposedly from the Office of Personnel Management, or OPM. A similar document was also being distributed that impersonates the New Zealand Public Service Association, or PSA, which is the federal employees union in New Zealand. It didn't say if that one was promising jobs in New Zealand or promising jobs in the United States, but either way, this is an old tactic that's back around. Once you open this document, it triggers the download of a Word document template from a Bitbucket repository. Some basic scripts then assemble a more complex PowerShell script and downloads a DLL, which is called newmodeler.dll, and then sideloads that through run DLL32exe, which is a pretty standard tactic for these kind of malicious DLLs. But the DLL is Cobalt Strike. So when run DLL32.exe actually loads it, it's Cobalt Strike. So then they've got a way to get into the system. I guess I report on these because I want to be sure you notify all your people about these kind of things. They were targeting all sorts of different industries with this, and so they're obviously trying to get access to various networks using this tactic, and it apparently works. So, we definitely have seen that a lot. And also in the Let Your People Know category, a free chat app called Comm100 was used to deliver payloads to users, according to CrowdStrike Falcon, who called it a supply chain attack. Comm100, if you've never heard of it, is pretty widely used, and it's an app that allows companies to directly communicate with people they're visiting their websites in real time. So it's one of those pop-up apps that you can, when somebody comes to your website, you can say, hey, would you like to chat with a person? The campaign ran for at least a few days, starting on the 27th of September and was still running on the 29th of September. I guess they stopped it after that. But basically, this was this typical thing where they get a session going with you and then try to pop a link up to something. Comments in the code and other clues indicated it might be a Chinese-developed application. Maybe. I mean, obviously, you could fake that as well. But this same group apparently had been targeting gambling entities in Asia with similar scams. There is, if you're using Comm100, there is an updated installer you can download that will prevent this from going on. So, if you have that product in place, you might want to do an update. And the threat of deepfakes is finally here. I remember when I first started seeing stuff about deepfakes, and I was like, this, a little early, and we saw a lot of, there was all sorts of stuff from fake pornography with, celebrities' faces pasted on other people's bodies, and on and on and on. But I think I agree with the headline. I think we're there. I was creating a fake data set this week for use in a class, and I was able to not only create all the users and push them into Active Directory, but I was also able to get photographs of them from an AI generation site. So I actually used this person that does not exist, and I was able to download pictures, convert them into snapshots, and paste them into their Active Directory accounts. So all my people actually have a photograph. The photographs can be a little squirrely, but nevertheless. We're seeing more and more of this. A new study in this was about the use and abuse of deep fakes, and it showed that all the needed elements for widespread use of this technology are available and are being sold in open forums and the dark web, as well as being available for free. Whether it's DALL-E or any of these other Mid-Journey, there's a whole bunch of them out there now where you can actually try to construct photographs or all kinds of things. But deepfakes tend to be more animated than that, right? So deepfakes tend to actually be like action video of a person or persons that you control. So basically, Trend Micro published this report, and they said that many deepfake phishing, business email compromise, and promotional scams are already happening that use deepfakes. And if you get even just a voicemail from your boss that sounds like your boss and talks like your boss, you might actually follow those instructions. And I mean, they certainly have deep fakes just for audio. And, the old scam where they call and get you to change the routing numbers on accounts is a very common one. And people fall for that even when the voice on the other end of the line has an accent or maybe doesn't use English or whatever language you're speaking, idiomatically. And people fall for that anyway. Imagine when that person on the other end actually sounds like somebody that you know, or it's a video call and you can actually see this person telling you what to do. Imagine, and we've seen this already happen, the impersonation of political opponents and the creation of deep fakes where you get, a political opponent to literally say whatever you want. There was one with, I think, Nancy Pelosi last year. There have been other political, hit jobs that were put together using deep fake. And, considering that most people can't even distinguish a lie when a lie is being told and it's labeled as a lie and there's a warning that it's a lie and there's evidence that it's a lie because you can just look it up and see the person, it's obvious they're lying and you still can't get that it's a lie, we're probably all doomed. But criminal groups are looking to hire experts on this, according to the report, and they're advertising on the dark web currently at all levels for deep fake experts on media. According to another report in that same light, VMware, deepfake-enabled threats were here, and 66% of the respondents to the report said they had experienced an incident which involved some sort of deepfake over the past 12 months, which was I think something like a 13-14% increase over last year's report. I honestly think this stuff is very scary. I mean, it's very cool at the same time. I mean, I love playing with these things. I love playing with chat bots and all these, imaging sites and whatever. But it seems like it's very, very easily to be misused. Currently, according to this report, detection of deepfake is very difficult. And I've seen some, and I'm going, I don't know how you would determine if that was real or not. And, and of course, most people won't spend much time researching what they're being told anyway, so they just believe what they're shown. Going to get ugly. I really, really think so. Well, one of the most successful hand models of the 21st century, if you've seen an ad with a hand in it, he was probably the source. His hands are so successful, they're often used in place of other actors' hands in films and ads at great expense. Meryl Streep once said, "My hands are so icky and gross and knobby, we had to hire a stunt double hand, and this was absolutely amazing." So please welcome deep hand faker Jason Wood.
Hey, everybody. Good to be with you as always. And just to follow on to the deepfake stuff, I remember reading something about that where they said it's going to get so good the only way to tell the difference is going to be with another computer looking at it. So, yeah, I agree with Doug. That's going to turn into a mess. So this article actually, is kind of a funny headline in some ways. Cyber criminals leak LA school data after it refuses to ransom, which I think Vice meant refuses to pay the ransom is what they're going on. But it appears that we are moving into the winding up phase of the intrusion at Los Angeles Unified School District, or LAUSD. As now the data is starting to be published on the attacker's data leak site. Basically, LAUSD has refused emphatically to pay the ransom, and now as a result, things are getting published. The intrusion actually occurred over Labor Day weekend last month in September, basically the first weekend of the month, for those not in the United States, and it began with the usual type of stuff. Critical systems aren't working. Things are going sideways. We've got statements from the victim saying that they're responding to it and they've got some kind of outage going on, maybe some vague references to the actual, the idea that, hey, this is some kind of attack. But, one thing that I thought was interesting about this intrusion, on top of all of that, it actually involved a fairly speedy involvement with law enforcement and other government agencies. LAUSD is the second largest school district in the United States with about 640,000 students every year. So an attack like on an organization like this is a major event. And as a result, the FBI, U.S. Department of Education, DHS's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, or CISA, and local law enforcement were also notified and involved in it. Plus, I'm sure response firms and additional support that they needed on the technical side. So this really blew up in a major way as far as the response from the school and trying to cope with this. The school district, obviously, they had a long road ahead of them. They had to go through the process of restoring these applications, any data that was corrupted or ransomed. They reset the passwords for all students, teachers, and staff en masse, which that had to have been a whole lot of fun. In fact, I read one article where they talked about some statements about the difficulty that they experienced and kind of weren't expecting that level of difficulty in resetting 700,000 some odd accounts. I don't know. I mean, it's a huge organization once you get into all the other staff as well. Now, to LAUSD's credit, they appear to have been able to still provide classroom instruction, transportation, meal services, and other programs that are really kind of the core of what a school district does. I'm sure there was some modification and frustration on the part of the students and the teachers and admin staff, but after 2 years of dealing with all kinds of disruption from COVID, the teachers were probably in a better and students were probably in a better place to deal with whatever it is that needed to be done as they work their way through this. Now, the attackers themselves are reportedly a known ransomware group called Vice Society, and they're based apparently out of Russia. In this particular intrusion, they stole 500 gigabytes of data from the school district systems, and either they've begun posting it or they have fully posted it, and people are still just downloading it and grappling with what's there, which is probably more of what was going on. Lost my place. There we go. And so, anyhow, the group set a deadline for October 4th to pay the ransom. LAUSD came out and very publicly and strongly said, no, it isn't happening. In fact, we're not even going to talk to you or negotiate with you. Now, I think everybody here at Security Weekly, the hosts, have at some point taken the position and said, hey, victims shouldn't pay the ransom. This just provides more incentive for the attackers to keep doing it. However, this intrusion does really illustrate some of the impacts that come with that type of situation or that type of response, and the data still gets leaked out, and there are impacts and costs associated with that. Initially, when we start dealing with ransomware, data gets encrypted, and either you paid the ransom or you restored for backup or you just lost the data. And some folks lost their businesses due to that. Now, obviously extortion has been added to this where an additional layer of extortion, which is not only will not give you your data back, but we'll get, or I guess they'll give you your data back. They'll leak it publicly. And provide some kind of loss there to you or impact to you as far as, embarrassment, regulatory fines. I mean, who knows what the fallout of this is going to eventually be on, the school district as far as impact people's jobs and fines and things like that. Regardless, LAUSD decided pretty quickly, no, we are not paying out. Here's a statement actually from the school district. It says, Los Angeles Unified remains firm that dollars must be used to fund students and education. Paying ransom never guarantees the full recovery of data, which is correct. And Los Angeles Unified believes that public dollars are better spent on our students rather than capitulating to a nefarious and illicit crime syndicate, end quote. Totally agree with that. Very polite way of basically saying screw you to Vice Society. And, like I said, candidly, I agree with this, even with the impact that they're dealing with, which is not necessarily very easy as well. As we get into the data that was leaked. In fact, Vice Society did leak some data that I found to be a little bit alarming. I've gotten kind of used to the idea that, hey, your social security number, your address, your tax forms, your whatever it is, has been leaked as part of some kind of incident. We've all received those notifications. But the information that also is included in this and has been posted, it has stuff like conviction reports, I'm assuming of students, that have some kind of trouble with with the law. Hopefully not teachers, but who knows? Health information, and one that kind of caught my attention, which was psychological assessments of students. The idea of that information being leaked out to the public, really a lot more uncomfortable to me. I would hope this wouldn't show up in any background checks in the future, because somebody's looking up some information on somebody and, oh, look at what I found in this data leak. Now that this child is an adult. But it certainly would be ripe for harassment of all kinds. Really, the school districts are in a bad spot for these types of attacks, and so are all victims, but school districts in particular are dealing with important information, and their budgets always stink. They're really thin. They've got very small staff. So security teams, like I said, they're usually quite small. They're juggling a lot of tasks. They're doing IT work. They're doing security monitoring, supposedly. They're trying to respond to whatever the students are doing. In fact, I talked to one gentleman who worked on one of these teams, and he was describing some of the challenges that he and his team were dealing with just the normal shenanigans that high school students and junior high school students get up to, which probably many of us could think back on our own time in school and recollect on. Regardless, according to at least one post on Security Boulevard, U.S. schools lost $3.56 billion last year in 2021 to ransomware attacks in one form or another. Ransoms responding to it, costs associated with it, whatever. While LAUSD didn't pay up to the criminal group, there's obviously still going to be a significant monetary loss due to the intrusion, and hopefully would be stuff that would have been spent on students rather than maybe somebody's nice new office. Either way, this problem is not going to go away anytime soon. The costs of not paying a ransom are really very real and frequently very high. And in this case, there's pretty severe impact, at least as people's comfort with the data that's been lost. And we'll see what happens, how that gets used. Many victims opt to pay the ransom just to avoid this sort of thing, and unfortunately, that is going to encourage the criminal groups. So it's a difficult one for us to deal with and grapple with. To close it out, I just really like this comment about these groups from Alan Liska of Recorded Future. They decided against the choice of being decent human beings a long time ago, and truer words never spoken.
Thank you, Jason. And of course, once you go down that road, it's just like all bets are off, right? Once you realize you can rip off little old ladies or whatever, it's just like you just say, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, this is really, really bad. All right, and finally, speaking of deep fakes, there's this rumor that is apparently going around that Bruce Willis, famous Bruce Willis actor, action film star, whatever, and he has aphasia, which is a disease that you get that causes you to be unable to communicate. It sounds really awful. But the rumor is that Bruce Willis sold his image to an AI startup that specializes in deep fakes. And the rumor is basically implying that Bruce Willis, who will no longer be able to work, and I guess is currently no longer able to work, did this so he could continue to star in films and ads despite not being able to actually do it, himself. Adoru? Anybody read Adoru? Yeah, well, anyway. William Gibson predicted everything that Arthur C. Clarke missed. But anyway, Bruce's agent denied that this is true and said that Bruce did not sell anything to Deepcake, and I had to read that twice because I was like, wait, did they misspell this? But apparently the company that he was working with is called Deepcake, who makes deep fakes. Yeah, I think they get a lot of confused people calling, and I'm not even going to look up Deepcake on Urban Dictionary because there's no telling what it means. But, there's probably everybody from my mother calling, and saying, I'd like a deep cake, to, people calling going, a deep cake, eh? But anyway, I won't bash your company name. But it was I kept looking at it going, I think I've got problems in my eyes. But anyway, Bruce apparently did actually work for Deepcake back in 2021 and made some sort of ad with CGI for a Russian telco called Megaphone. I don't know. So, but the rumor is apparently untrue that he is now on his way to becoming a permanent actor that is just a deep fake. What a world, what a world. And that is the news. Thanks, Jason. We'll see you Friday for the wrap-up show.